everyone, I'm Leslie Cornwell, Certified Nurse Midwife with Empowering Midwifery Education. This next section has to do with tips for creating a strong business plan. A legal disclaimer we put at the beginning of all of our presentations. This information is for educational uses only, not intended to substitute for professional, clinical, or legal advice. We strive to keep our information as accurate as possible, but make no promises and guarantees. We strongly encourage you to speak with your local experts because everybody's situation is different. So course objectives, the student will be able to verbalize the two main common ways to write a business plan, the different sections that are included in a traditional business plan, be able to talk about why business plans are really important, the different ways to develop a lean startup business plan versus the 10 tips to create a strong, comprehensive business plan. And then the last thing will be things you don't want to include in a business plan. So why is this topic important? It's a foundational document for anybody wanting to start a business. If you're wanting to get funding from a bank, an investor, grants, community, whatever for-profit, nonprofit type of business you want to start, the people that are going to join your team, your investors, your partners, people giving you money, are going to want to know your expertise, the mission, the vision, where you're going to go, the financial projections, the fee schedules, the research, the community needs assessment. They're going to want to know, is this business going to be lasting long term? Are they going to get their money back? Is it going to make money? What are the risk factors? What due diligence have you done so far to help improve the success of the practice once it opens? So you want to prove to the investors you're the expert in this field. As midwives, talk about your history, talk about the statistics in your area, the demands, the needs, the things that really stand out from your unique perspective, because that's the big things they're going to look at with a business plan, is that you're willing to contribute sweat equity, down payment, you're an expert in that field, you've got knowledge, you've got experience. If you've started businesses before, that helps a lot. So you're bragging not just about the business, but also about yourself. You want them to clearly understand wherever they're coming from, if they're very knowledgeable with midwives and birth centers and community-based care, or they're the basics. They don't know anything about midwives and birth centers. Your business plan has to teach all walks of life so that they can clearly understand your services, your scope of practice, your barriers, the challenges, why this is in demand, why this is so important, and what your goals are for the future. So there's two common types of business plans. You can have the traditional business plan, which is what most people, I would say, do, especially when it comes to obstetrics, complicated practices. You've got a lot going on. It tends to be the one the banks, the investors prefer. A lean startup business plan is more you're using your own funding, you want to do your research, your due diligence. Maybe you have a business partner that's part of your warm market and they're not as stressed about the detailed numbers. It's more for you to do your research. Is this going to be viable? I want to make mistakes on paper. I don't want to make mistakes with my own time and money and reducing the risk of success and increasing my risk of burnout. So it's really important to, most of the time you're going to want to do a traditional business plan, but sometimes it's appropriate to do a lean startup. And so we're going to go over the different sections included in a business. So the first part, which is the most important, and honestly you probably write it at the very end, it's your executive summary. It's traditionally 1 page, maybe 2 pages. It's your high level elevator speech. You've written your business plan. This is that first chapter. That's that introduction to a book. It's the first paragraph in a news article that gets you to read more. So you want to make it enticing, you want to make it positive, you want to make people want to dive into reading the rest of your business plan. If you have investors, you have banks, and they're looking at hundreds of business plans, you don't want them to say, no, I'm not interested in this, and they've only read the executive summary. So this is a really important part. Stand out how you're amazing, how this is so important, what the unique angle is, the demand. Really entice them to be like, holy cow, this is exciting. I didn't even know this existed. I didn't even know the demand was there. I see some potential, like stress to them, all the wonderful things, so that this teaser will get them to want to look at the rest of your business plan. So the next part has to do with the company description, has to do with your services, your radius, the clientele you're going to serve, the actual description of your mission, your vision, Is it going to be a team? Is it going to be home birth practice, birth center? Are you going to offer lots of services? What is the description of your ultimate purpose? Why is this company going to exist, and what are its strengths? A market analysis is the next section of a business plan. That has to do with you've learned who your competition, your collaborations, who are already in the community. You've talked to family, friends, you've done surveys, you found out all the home birth midwives have waiting lists and they're hoping someone will open in the area to be able to refer to. There's tons of home birth practices. There's 3 hospitals, but there's no birth center. And you have to explain the difference of your birth center compared to these other practices. There's lots of obstetricians, but there's no midwives. Why are there no midwives? You have to be proactive of barriers and challenges. If it's super restrictive to start birth centers and midwives being able to practice independently in your state, you need to show on your business plan how you're going to solve those challenges, because they're going to know you're going to have challenges, and the more you can be proactive in planning of how you're going to get over those hurdles and challenges on your business plan are going to help. So some of the common things when they're not as familiar with midwives, they'll ask about malpractice insurance, they'll ask about your scope of practice, they'll want to know that relationship with hospitals and doctors and supervisory relationship, because a lot of investors and banks in the bigger community that has the money to invest in your practice, they just don't know and understand. So don't be disrespected when they ask those questions. Overkill on your business plan. Educate them, show them the national standards, show them your state regulations for midwives birth centers, show them the relationship you have to have in writing, informal, who you already have picked out to be that hospital. You have to be within 30 minutes for emergency services based on CABC, and you're acknowledging that, and you know who you're going to pick for that and why. So you want to be really proactive when you're doing a marketing analysis, not just on the consumers you're going to serve, but what is the healthcare environment like? What is the competition? What are people willing to pay for services in the area? Why are other people successful? And what are missing in their practices based on doing your due diligence that you are going to offer? You can do better. You are going to bring a unique perspective that clients are looking for. So the organization and management has to do with who's going to run the practice. What's the chain of command? What's the staff you're going to need? What is the business entity structure? Why did you pick that one? Who are all the owners? Who are the partners? Who are the directors, the leadership? Who are the staff you're going to have from the beginning, and who are the staff you're going to have long term? What are the meetings going to look like? How often? Maybe if you're the business partner, you're the owner, attaching as an addendum your resume, your skill set, your background expertise. This is the time to brag about you and all the business partners. They're going to bring their expertise to make this business successful. So what services, what product line, who are you going to serve, what radius, how are you going to serve them? Are you going to accept cash? Are you insurance? Are you going to bill insurance in-house, out of network? Are you going to have a electronic medical record system? Are you going to have a clinic? Are you just going to do home visits? Are you going to have a birth center? Are you going to do GYN care? Every single service you're going to offer, explain why it's important you do it. Maybe it's more profitable. There's a huge need in the area. It's 3 hours to the local XYZ service. Maybe you have a unique niche certification that'll draw in people from a distance that no one else in the state has. Maybe you're going to make a one-stop shop where you have a community center and there's chiropractors, there's naturopaths, there's a branding of an alternative friendly theme, and you want to show how you're going to promote those services, an estimated fee schedule, where it came from on your budgets, a rough estimate of what the competitors are doing. You want to do research on maybe you're going to do menopause, hormonal therapy, sexual health, ultrasound services. Explain what services you're going to do. Make sure you're including that equipment in the startup and the long-term operating expenses. So you just want to really count for any patents, any copyrights, I've had some awesome midwives doing some unique oils and CBDs and different unique things out there. So you may be patenting something, and that's part of your stages and what the unique thing is that no one else is offering. So you want to talk about your marketing campaigns, how you're going to, before you open the doors, how you're going to get clients, how you're going to find those ideal clients, what are your different ways you're going to market to the community, how much money you need for marketing, the startup marketing campaigns, the long-term month-to-month overhead costs for marketing. And what are you going to do? Are you going to do door-to-door networking? Are you going to be mostly on social media? Are you going to do a YouTube channel? Are you going to get a lot of referrals? Are you going to meet with local bishops and ministers and religious organizations, depending on who you want to serve? How are you going to get awareness of your services out there? And how are the clients going to find you? A website's essential, your contact information, your email, your address, your phone number. You want to talk about how clients are going to find you and how they're going to be established with your practice. So the funding request is the very tail end. After you do your budgets, you do your projections, you do a good sense summary. What are you looking for? How much money do you need to get started? How much money do you need for equipment? How much money do you need for supplies, for marketing campaigns, for overhead administration and labor costs until the practice starts making money? You need to have a breakdown, a detailed description. Do you want the funds all up front? Do you have stages of expansion you're expecting to get a loan or having partners contribute funds for? It's very different funding request to a bank where you put a down payment ranging from 10% up to 35% for a small business association loan. If it's a building or if it's just labor and supplies, it's where that down payment will change, versus you're requesting funding by you put this deal together, you want business partners, and they have to put the funds in to get the return on investment, to get the profit sharing. What do you want out of them to join it? So maybe they're going to be joining as partners to do the down payment to the bank, because I challenge midwives all the time. Dream big, make the numbers work. If you have a strong business plan, we will not have trouble finding you money to borrow or partners to join this deal. So it's really, really important to not stress so much you want to start small. It's so much nicer to start with a staff of 3 to 5 providers, the building, the situation, the marketing campaigns, a strong foundation from day one. You're going to have a lot better return on investment, and that extra $100,000 on your loan will be paid back a lot faster, easier. You're going to be a lot happier. So I really stress to people, the funding, don't try to cut corners. Don't worry about the amount. If it comes out to $50,000, it comes out to $200,000, it comes out to $2 million. Do not stress by that number. As long as the budgets, the financial projections all support it, that's the easy part. I personally started my birth center very slow end when we did it in 2012. We had a small business association loan for $50,000. We had a lease to own with a chiropractor for the birth center. We lived in the upstairs of the birth center. We and the community of birth workers did the renovation and the construction. I needed just a loan for the startup supplies to add staff, to pay myself for a little while till we got going, and the supplies and the construction equipment needed. So you can do it as small or as big as you want, but I would say the average loan when we're doing a women's health clinic, a birth center, something a larger scale operation, it tends to be around $200,000 to $400,000 is the funding request average. Home birth practice, it tends to be $10,000, $15,000 if you're just small, starting out simple, just getting your equipment you need to get going. So the financial projections are really, really important. I can't stress this enough, because if you don't show how it's going to be profitable, the accurate volume of how many clients you're going to take a month for deliveries, or if you're doing a women's health clinic or GYN services, how many patients you can realistically see in a day, the financial projections are by far the most important part, because it stresses, is this business based on the volume, the services, the fee schedule, the insurance reimbursement? Will it make money based on the overhead expenses that are needed? So this is a really, really important part of the practice. Get a business consultant, get someone that's a business mentor, have SBA mentors you can get help you with the financial projections. This part is really, really important. I can't stress it enough. You want to be conservative in how many clients you'll serve, and you want to have a cushion of emergency and reserves and kind of overinflate supplies, so then you can have a spread of cushion, because I think too many times we hope it'll be this way. There's always going to be unexpected costs. There's always going to be surprise things you can't anticipate. So the best we can do to put as details on our financial projections and how many people we're going to serve as realistic as possible is huge. So an appendix is the very end. It can be a lot of different things. Appendix can be supporting documents to show you've already done blueprints for a birth center. You're just looking for a location. You're looking for a lot to purchase. That would be really helpful to have. You've got letters of references, recommendations, how amazing you are, your past experiences, addendums of maybe your licensure, your certifications, the state regulations for birth centers and for midwives, anything at all, a legal binding document, maybe a written collaboration with a physician because you need it in the state and you've already got that, business partner operating agreements, pre-existing relationships that are going to be in place, anything that you want to help reinforce you've been planning, you're very thorough, they're going to eventually ask for it anyways with the funding process, just make sure you add it. So the lean startup business plan, this one is more, it's just high level, you doing your research, your due diligence. It's not so much you have a relationship with the partners, it's maybe just yourself and it's your own cash. You're more putting it together, not so much to convince someone to invest in your business, you're putting it together to make sure you're not missing anything. Maybe when you do the numbers in the paper and you didn't realize that malpractice has went up 5 times the price and the supplies and the overhead and insurance is actually paying less. This is your way to practice before the doors open. So either way you want to write a business plan, it's just a matter of if you're home birth practice, you're small, you're starting out with cash, still make a business plan, but make it a lean, due diligent resource tool for you so that you make sure you're not missing anything that will be really vital for the success of your practice, or maybe this practice isn't the right timing, or you're going to add some services and do something a little different you didn't anticipate because you did this research. So there's 2 very different types of business plans. You want to make sure you're putting who the staff is. It's more high level things on this. This is for you in doing all of your research. So you want to talk about your different relationships, the clients, maybe you're already established as a home birth practice, but you want to do the birth center side. You don't have to talk about all the value you're going to add to the community because your practice is already doing that. But you want to do a focused, lean business plan on the birth center. Learn about the regulations, learn about the requirements. Can you find a medical director? What is the cost for the certification process on a state level? Can you get insurance contracts? What's the average reimbursement? What are people willing to pay? So there's things you still want to do, but it's more of a focused business plan when you're expanding, when it's just you. You're not trying to convince someone to give you money. So you want to look at the different revenue streams. You want to look at not just how can you serve clients for services you're directly offering. Get creative. You may have family membership plans. Maybe you'll have a family nurse practitioner join your team and you're just going to have a flat monthly rate for the family to be seen, especially with the Amish and some of these communities where you're really about preventative, and you don't have to offer every single membership or unique service or unique sales line to every single person in your community. I see a lot of chiropractors do this. They'll have family monthly membership rates for services, and there's great revenue streams for certain industries. So get creative, look at all the different ways of services, who can be on your team, how can you benefit from joining forces with a doula, a chiropractor, a childbirth educator, a lactation consultant, all these wonderful resources in your community. How can you guys join together and create a really unique bundle package that other people aren't offering? So these are key tips for a strong business plan. You have to know your competition. You have to know what they're doing good, what they're missing, because they're already established. This is what the consumers and community is used to. So when you're doing your marketing campaigns, You want to know their strengths and their weaknesses and your own strengths and weaknesses so that you can leverage off why are you getting started? What are your ideal clients? What can you offer that your competition can't offer? Know the audience, know the consumers, know your ideal client really, really well, and how do you find them? How do you want to support them? What services do you want to offer? What radius do you want to serve? How do you want to serve that community? You want to show good hard evidence of as much objectivity as you can do as possible. So if you're claiming a statistic, you're claiming some data, you're claiming that all the other midwives in the area are busy, you're going to want to have some quotes, you're going to have some documentation to show that they wrote an email that yes, they're hoping you open soon so you can be their referral because they turn away 3 ladies a week. Like, that's really important objective information. You don't want to just say, well, I think midwives are important and that everybody's going to love a midwife. You want to be as objective in data and evidence to show them. Being conservative on all your financial projections. I can't stress that enough. It's icing on the cake, these extra things. You don't ever want to be cutting corners, or you didn't have an emergency account, you didn't have enough, you didn't ask for enough for your funding in the beginning for what cost of staff and supplies and equipment. You're really stuck in a crippled situation. And if you don't make your numbers accurate, and it truly isn't going to make you money because you fudged the numbers, your investors aren't going to be happy, you're not going to be able to pay your bills, you're really going to struggle. So you have to be doing a lot of research, talk to competitors, see what's a realistic fee schedule for your unique overhead expenses, and will the projections, even if you're not making money the first 3 to 6 months, that's okay, but in the eventually 18, 24 months, you need to be making some money. You need to be showing how it will, because especially when we do birth and if you're billing insurance afterwards, you can take care of people for 9 months and then not get paid for 3 months later. So it's normal in our service line of this obstetrics and not taking cash up front, traditionally insurance, you're going to need a higher startup funding pool to support the overhead administration. That's okay, but you just have to make sure your numbers are accurate. So things to not include in a business plan. You really have to be careful. If you've had a history of going to jail, you've had a history of bankruptcy, you've had a history of substance abuse, alcohol, driving under the influence, hearsay, rumors, defamation of character, you don't want to just give salesy gimmicks. They see right through that. Amateuristic financial projections, you just do the basics. They ask a question about, well, why didn't you count this? For example, you're saying, well, I gave the monthly rate for my lease, but then you forget to add utilities, and then they ask you the simple question, are utilities included with the rent? And you say no, but then your financial projections don't include that. You have to be very, very careful, because anything on your business plan where you miss things, you make mistakes, you have typos, you forget, or you just say, well, I guessed that number, I didn't actually do any research, that makes the investors much more nervous to work with you because you're missing things in your research that are really, really important. So you don't want to use strong words. You don't want to try to fluff things up. It's simple, to the point. Why is this important? What is your mission? Why are you the expert to start this? Who are you going to serve? Why are you different than the rest? And how is it going to make money? So you need to make sure you're not cushioning the projections and saying, I can make $8,000 a birth when all the other competitors are charging $4,000. You have to show them how you're going to make an extra $4,000 per client, or you just were trying to make your numbers look better than they really were. So you don't want to make it a 100-page document. Log documents, it's interesting how comprehensive. If you're doing a home birth practice, I expect the business plan to be around 15 pages. A women's health clinic, it tends to be about 30 to 50 pages. A birth center, depending on how big you want to do, if you want a community center, you're going to rent to people, you've got multi-services, you've got OBs, MFMs, FNPs, you've got alternative therapies, you're starting a midwifery school, you may have a 70, 80 page business plan depending on how comprehensive it is and the stages you want to do. So you want to make sure that the document fits appropriately to the level, scale of operations and the research needed for it. So just as a conclusion, writing business plans are really, really important. I love writing business plans. I enjoy it. It gives a challenge. Your whole point is to take your mission, your passion, your drive, and translate it so other people can understand why there is value, why they want to be a business partner, why they want to loan you money, why this business will be successful short term and long term. It's an opportunity for you to practice and do your research and learn about different ways to structure this practice before the doors open, before you have clients in front of you. This is your opportunity before your precious time and money is on the line to determine, is this the right business structure? Do we need to tweak things? Do we need to change our service line a little bit? Do we need to have more staff on from day one because you did the research and there's a lot more people wanting this service than you realize? This is your opportunity to plan very thoroughly, look at the numbers, and be able to structure the deal with you having the advantage because you'll have more people to choose from to be on your team for funding the birth center, the home birth practice, the women's health clinic, whatever amazing midwifery business you have. So you want to look at how can you get the funding? What are the stages? Does it make sense to look for investors and you do profit sharing? Does it make sense to do an SBA loan and now you get to make all the decisions and you just have to pay a monthly payment back? So it really depends on the style of how much funding you have, what relationship, if you want multiple business partners so you don't have all the responsibility. There's pros and cons to all the different ways of doing it. But your whole point of a business plan is you have to show the bank, whoever, the community, grant writers, donations, investors, you have to show them how you're going to make money on this so that they'll get their money back. They know confidently you're going to pay your payment plan. They know confidently they're going to make the minimum profit margin they wanted to make. This is a time for you to show your value, show your unique perspective, and to dream big about creating any type of service line, any type of need for your community. It's your way to communicate that.